He's the Doctor's best enemy. He's Moriarty to the Doctor Sherlock Holmes. He's the Master. And in all the furore and fuss about the Doctor's 60th anniversary, it's been forgotten that it's the Master's 52nd anniversary since his first appearance in 1971. But the burning question that you will want answered: who's my favourite Master? Let's find out. Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. Yes, just occurred to me on the weekend that mainly because I've been watching some Pertwee episodes with the Master, because a member of my family is catching up on some classic Doctor Who, as so many people are these days. And it occurred to me, of course, that it's a long time since the Master first appeared in Doctor Who. And whilst obviously 52 years isn't quite as significant a landmark as 60, I thought I would take a look back at all the Masters on TV, and in the style of my ranking the Doctors videos series, which is still available obviously on this channel if you want to go back a bit. I thought I'd rank the Masters. Now, there have been 9, count them 9. In fact, when I was doing my list this morning, I left off one and then realised, oh, there was Eric Roberts. So I remembered to put him in the list. So there have been 9 canonical TV Masters. I'm not including people like David Jacobi, who played Professor Yana in Utopia in 2007. I'm also not including any of the Big Finish Masters for 2 reasons. One, I don't really know any of them. I've not heard the stories, so I can't really classify them. And in my headcanon, TV Doctor Who is what counts. Anything else is alternative universe Doctor Who stuff. So I'm looking at the 9 actors who've played the Master in Doctor Who since 1971, the classic series, the TV movie, and the reboot series, the reimagined series that we're all enjoying these days. So let's do the countdown of my top 9 Masters. Number 9 is Gordon Tipple. Now, this isn't a joke, because Gordon Tipple was the Paul Sod who played the Master at the beginning of the TV movie in 1996, the Paul McGann TV movie. He's a body who is the Master who gets exterminated by very strangely voiced Daleks. You can't really, obviously, qualify his performance because there isn't a performance. He's just a body. He doesn't have any dialogue. He's just there. But he's the Master who gets exterminated. And Gordon Tipple is credited as the Master, so he goes on this list and he comes in last place. That's Gordon Tipple as the Master in 1996. This next one, number 8, is going to be a little bit controversial and people will probably get annoyed and angry. But listen to my reasons, please. Michelle Gomez. Now, as I said, I know this is going to be very controversial because a lot of people like her. She's very popular. And I think that the idea of doing a female Master, I think she appeared in Peter Capaldi's first series all the way through as Missy. And I can't believe that I didn't twig, oh, Missy Master, all the way through the series. She kept appearing. And it never entered my head for a moment that this was the Master until, I must admit, it was a brilliant reveal at the end of, I think it was Death in Heaven, on the steps of St. Paul's Cathedral where the Cybermen were invading. Again, she reveals who she is to the Doctor and she says, I can't keep calling myself the Master. And that was a brilliant moment. That was a classic Doctor Who moment in an era that had precious few, in my opinion. And I like the idea. And of course, this set up the idea that Time Lords could change their gender because later on Moffat had Time Lords regenerating man, woman, and so on. And of course, that led to Jodie Whittaker eventually becoming the Doctor, and the audience sort of getting used to, or at least being presented with the idea that the Doctor could be a woman, even if they didn't like it very much. And so many of them still don't like it. And I think the idea of turning the Master into a woman was a really good idea. But it was fudged. It was horribly fudged. Michelle Gomez is an interesting choice. She's a slightly eccentric performer. I've seen her on lots of things. She's always a bit mad-eyed. But she's a good actress. And I think that she was wasted in another very badly written Stephen Moffat characterisation, because it was a one-note characterisation. It was basically a jokey characterisation. And this is, I don't want to set off on another Stephen Moffat rant, but Stephen Moffat's era of Doctor was very much characterised by jokes. It's going to be full of jokes and humour and wit, because he's a hard comedy writer. And I understand that. But I think he has a problem differentiating the drama and the comedy. I think you have to have jokes with everything. I don't know if any of you have seen the 60th anniversary music concert that was on BBC 4. Original Radio 2, it's available. It was on BBC 4, now it's on the iPlayer. And all the showrunners of the modern era come on stage and talk about Doctor Who. I think Stephen Moffat uses the word joke 4 times, which is his mindset. And I think this is the mindset that was reflected back in Missy, who was presented as a comedic villain. There were attempts to make her threatening, but it was all undercut by the comedy, which is the problem I have with that whole Stephen Moffat era. You're trying to do dramatic, scary things, and then some lame joke comes in, or some skit, and it just didn't work for me. So I like the idea of Missy, and she could be she had a threatening presence, but there was nothing threatening about her. This sort of Mary Poppins type costume that she was wearing. I think there was even an episode where you see her on an umbrella floating through the sky, and I think that, and possibly my least favourite moment, in fact the moment that makes my blood pressure rise just thinking about it. The episode in Peter Capaldi's 3rd season, the penultimate episode, where she's aboard the TARDIS. The thread of that series was that she was being kept prisoner by the Doctor because she was so evil. And eventually he took her on board the TARDIS. And there's an episode where they land on a spaceship and she steps out with her umbrella and goes, "Hello, I'm Doctor Who." That, to me, I mean, Moffat had a thing about the Doctor being called Doctor Who, and it was like a joke. The thing about the name Doctor Who, it works very well as a reference when it comes organically, when somebody says, "Doctor Who? Who are you, Doctor Who?" That's nice, that gives you a little tingle. But when the character is proclaimed to be called Doctor Who, it just winds me up. It's one of those things that really irritates me, and Moffat did a lot of that. And that scene where she came out of the TARDIS, "Hello, I'm Doctor Who." I just hate it. I detest it. And I just think that she never threatened. I never found her particularly threatening. I could understand she was trying to be sinister and evil, but she just came across as a comedic character. Didn't work for me. So apologies for Missy fans, but it comes at number 8 for me. Number 7 is Eric Roberts from the TV movie, the post-Gordon Tipple version of the Master, who takes over, as I recall. It's an odd one, the TV movie, because the Master appears first of all as this sort of slithery snake type thing, for reasons that are never explained, which then takes over the body of this guy in New York or Los Angeles, whoever it is, and then he takes over the body, which is Eric Roberts, and he becomes this version of the Master. It's actually not about Eric Roberts, Julia Roberts' brother, by the way, in case you didn't know. He's an interesting actor in that he's not very good. He does a lot of poor quality B movies and action films and things. But he's got a presence about him, a physicality about him, and I think he brought that to the Master. More of a sort of a thug type character than the manipulative supervillain that we'd seen before. Not a fantastic performance, but I think it worked quite well in the confines of this American tinged TV movie. So that's and he had a couple of sinister moments. I think when he became Eric Roberts, he sort of twisted his wife's neck, which is quite nasty. I think they took out the crack sound effect. But it was a bit one note. He just wanted to take over the TARDIS. He wanted to beat the Doctor. It wasn't a great movie, but it had its moments. And Eric Roberts, not great, but it was an interesting performance. 6 and 5 are probably interchangeable, because it's the same iteration of the Master played by 2 different actors. Number 6, I'm putting Geoffrey Beevers, who played the emaciated Master in The Keeper of Traken. Now, we'd previously seen that emaciated version a few years before in The Deadly Assassin, played by Peter Pratt, and he's number 5. I might as well tell you that now. Geoffrey Beevers is in The Keeper of Traken. He plays it much the same as Peter Pratt. It's a similar costume. Makeup is a little bit more, clings to the face a bit better, I think, than Peter Pratt's did. But it's quite a nice, sinister sort of performance of the Master in desperation at the end of his life cycle. His regenerations have run out. He's trying to keep himself alive however he can by using the power of the Keeper of Traken. It's quite a creepy performance, because he's got that look, that sort of degenerated face and emaciated and burnt sort of body, which then goes on to number 5, Peter Pratt, playing that same version of the Master a few years earlier in The Deadly Assassin. There's so little room between them, because it's the same character played by 2 different actors. I put Peter Pratt slightly higher because he did it first, and there's a sort of cackling menace. You can almost see that he could once have been an earlier, more recognisable version of the Master. So I put those two. There's very little shade between the two. So Peter Pratt's number 5. The big 4 then. Number 4 is Mr. Anthony Ainley. Now, he had the unenviable task of replacing the classic Roger Delgado Master who first appeared in Doctor Who back in 1971. And it was an interesting performance because Anthony Ainley was one of those actors who I remember having seen in things in the 60s and 70s, and you hadn't seen him for years. Suddenly he was cast in The Keeper of Traken as his character Tremas, hint hint, anagram of Master, whose body is taken over by the decayed Master and has a new body at last. I think the difficulty was that he's very much cast in the mould of Roger Delgado. They sort of forgotten that when the Doctor changes, he doesn't look like his previous self, but they had the Master with the goatee beard, which is a bit darker than the one I've got, and the buttoned up sort of, not exactly a Nehru suit, but that sort of costume. So they made him look the same as Roger Delgado. Whether that's a nod to the Master's egotism, that he thinks he's got the perfect look and wants to keep it, I don't know, but that's never stated. But it just seemed odd that he looked much the same. Anthony Ainley's performance is a bit more boo-hiss pantomime than Roger Delgado's rather subtler, velvety performance. He's a bit more the ho-ho-ho, chuckling supervillain rather than the slightly subtler performance we'd had before. But I think in retrospect, it's quite charismatic. He's an unusual sort of quirky actor, and I understand that at the time he really got involved in playing that part, and I think towards the end of his life it was the only role he wanted to take, really. Play the Master in Doctor Who a couple of times a year and spend the rest of his time watching cricket because he was a big cricket fan. But I think it's an interesting performance of sort of comic book evil rather than the slightly edgier version that we'd had early on in the series. Number 3, obviously, takes us back into the modern version of Doctor Who, and I'm putting John Sim as the Master. What an incredible performance. What an unusual piece of casting, because when he appeared in Doctor Who in 2007 at the end of the 3rd season, he was well known. He'd become well known for playing Sam Tyler in the very popular Life on Mars sort of time travel psychological police series, which was quite a sort of John Sim is a bit like Christopher Eccleston. He's quite an intense, brooding sort of actor, difficult to sort of come to terms with and get to grips with. Somebody you might not necessarily feel comfortable in their company in case you said the wrong thing. And John Sim at the time had that slightly intense feel about him. And then we came to play the Master, and he was clearly having a fantastic time playing this complete madman. And I like the idea. A lot of people have said that it's too much, it's too out of control. But I think this reflects the fact that the Master has always been frustrated by the Doctor. The Doctor's always thwarted his plans and got in his way. And it's tipped him over the edge. And of course, there's all this stuff about the sound of drums that he hears in his head. It's all part of the madness of the Master. And he played it with this incredible manic energy. And he revelled in this beautiful dialogue that Russell T Davies gave him. And he really came across as mad and dangerous. It was a really good performance. And of course, he died at the end of The Last of the Time Lords. And then he came back. He was resurrected for David Tennant's specials, where I think it was a great performance. Those aren't great episodes, unfortunately. And I think that the Master became much more of a comic book supervillain because he could fly and he had to keep his energy up by eating meat. And this bizarre scheme he had to turn everybody into replicas of him. Very madcap stuff. But I think his characterization became a bit more for colour and comic booky, I think, rather than the slightly shaded version that he played earlier. But it's a great performance, a great actor. He did come back then in Stephen Moffat's era, where he was teamed up with Missy, and I think that didn't help Missy, because even though his performance, his appearance was slightly different, in fact he had the goatee beard, as I seem to remember, I think it had lost something in the interim period, and of course the writing wasn't as sharp in those episodes as they'd been earlier. And of course he died at the end and regenerated into Missy, so I don't suppose we'll see John Sim again, which is a shame. But we have moved on to somebody better. Number 2 is Sacha Dhawan. Sacha Dhawan's played the Master more recently in Jodie Whittaker's era, and whoa, what a performance. Sacha Dhawan, of course, is very well known to Doctor Who fans. He played Waris Hussein in The Adventure in Space and Time. Origins of Doctor Who docudrama back in the 50th anniversary. Amazing that that's 10 years old. He's a great actor. I've seen him in lots of things. And if you've seen, there's a BBC series you might not have seen called Wolf, which is on iPlayer now, which is a very master-like performance of this madman who's involved in this plot to kidnap this, to hold this family hostage. And that's what the sort of thing he does with the Master. Again, it's a Master who is totally unhinged by being constantly defeated by the Doctor. And he first appears at the end of episode 1 of Spyfall, the first episode, the brilliant first episode of Jodie Whittaker's second season. And that is another one of Doctor Who's great moments, where the Doctor and her companions are on board this plane, which they think is being piloted by Lenny Henry's character. But the Master's there. He's actually O, this sort of secret undercover MI5 spy who's an old friend of the Doctor's, who's actually always has been the Master. And the reveal where he says, spy master, and that look and the mania of his performance, it just sizzles off the screen. He's appeared in a few more episodes since then. He appeared in Spyfall Part 2, then he appeared in the finale of that season, and of course he appeared in Jodie Whittaker's final episode, and he gives good value as this crazy, out of control psychopath, basically. The scene in Power of the Doctor where he's sort of dancing around the room to Rasputin by Boney M. It's either high camp or high drama. I'm not sure. It falls in the middle somewhere. But I think it's a mesmerising performance by him. He really throws himself into playing parts like this. And I really hope that Russell T Davies will bring him back, because he is superb. Which just leaves me with my number one Master. And of course, it's got to be the original Mr. Roger Delgado. Wow. As I said, I've been watching some of his episodes again recently. And it's such a suave, cold, chilling performance. Of course, again, he's got the goatee beard, the Nehru suit, and he's a bit more in control than he became later on, because these are his first televised encounters with the Doctor. And he is urbane. He wears smart suits on occasion. And throughout that first season, season 8, I think he appears in every story, which I think the production team admitted was a bit of overkill at the time, because he appeared all the time as an adjudicator in Colony in Space, as a vicar in The Demons, and as himself the sort of Master, not in disguise in the first 3 stories. I think it is a bit of overkill. Actually, I remember watching Terror of the Altar. I remember watching it back in 1971 with my brother. And I remember we liked the character of the Master, and I think I remember my brother saying, wonder if he'll come back. We didn't know he was going to come back in the next 4 or 5 stories. But it's a great performance. He's always so watchable, and he's got that charm about him as well. He oozes sort of a subtle and sophisticated, understated menace, which I haven't had with later Masters, who are maniacs, but he is very much an evil genius, out to cause mischief and out to cause trouble. He hates the Earth, probably because the Doctor's on there, and he'll do anything he can to thwart and defeat the Doctor, short of actually thwarting and defeating him. It's a great performance. He seems like a lovely man. Everybody who worked with him said what a lovely man he was. It's such a tragedy that his life was cut short when he was killed in 1973 in a road accident in Turkey where he was filming something else. He'd planned to be written out of Doctor Who anyway, because I think he felt he was possibly losing a bit of work, because people just saw him as the Master. Tragically, we never saw what he was able to do later on. I think he would have gone on to some interesting roles. But he is the definitive Master, for me, at least. I think his performance is just... he sort of lights up the screen, and when he's on screen, you watch him. Great performance. And he is the classic Master. And as we celebrate, with flags and whistles and special TV episodes, 52nd anniversary of the Master, I'm pleased to say, that Roger Delgado is my favourite. Right, thank you for watching this video. If you've persevered, I've stumbled and bumbled my way through it a little bit. If you've enjoyed it, like and subscribe. Once again, welcome to a few new subscribers who've joined since the last video. Please do that like and subscribe thing. Please press that subscribe button. Leave a comment as well. Always nice to read your comments. Getting quite a few more comments lately, which is really nice. And most of them are very civil and sensible as well. I haven't had too much of this Doctor Who is woke crap stuff, which tends to be a view of a certain portion of the audience. Yeah, like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of my Master rankings. I know the Michelle Gomez one will outrage a lot of people, but I've tried to explain why I couldn't take to that version of the character, because of the era that she was in, the way she was written. So let me know who your favourite master is. Leave those comments down there and I shall see you soon until I do. Yeah, keep taking the stuff.